If racism, as we want to understand it, is a system that is well baked into the European system, and by extension, the American system, to help them take advantage of other people. And now we are talking of educating the people, the masses, so that they don't become racist anymore. Are we really sure that that is what is going to happen? I mean, if we take away racism from the American system, is it going to be the America that we know today?
Hmm. No. And that is a very good question because I don't know if you can really take it out of the system because you see the the foundation of the United States of America is built on racism, slavery, the the institution of slavery has trickled into the whole water of America. So as children grow up, white children grow up, black children grow up, they are, even to this day, they are still seeing the remnants. So I'll give you a perfect example. Now, my son, who is 30 years old, had very little experience with anyone calling him the N word, never really had a touch of what it was like to experience racist comments or thoughts or actions towards him like I did when I was a little girl. I had a little girl when I was 5 years old spit in my face and call me a nigger. That's what that at 5 years old in kindergarten. That's what happened to me. My son, however, fortunately, never had that problem growing up until the pandemic. And he is a very successful in sales in the automobile industry. And when people were coming in to buy a car from him, there was a gentleman that came straight out and said, I don't do business with brown people. I don't do business with people like you." And that was 2021. So it is, if the aspect of racism and the remnants of slavery that happened over 400 or 500 years ago, okay, were to be extracted from the fabric of the American system, I don't know what that would be like, but I do see that that it is evolving, that people are becoming more cognizant of what that is like for all people. And interestingly enough, Obahai, I think that the what we've gone through in the world with the pandemic has certainly heightened the awareness of the disparity still that exists between white Americans and Black Americans. And many white Americans have found it to be abhorrent, that this is not the America that they want to have. And so they're making adjustments individually and collectively.
Well, that adjustment is really interesting to make. It is important to make because I look at it as something that we should be able to do as human beings. We need to grow up. We must grow up. Because if you say, for example, that where I am superior to you, so I kill you, that is the logic. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything, really. Because, okay, you can still shoot a dog because you have a gun. Does it demonstrate really that you are superior to the dog? Okay, now let me make a very clear example. If we want to be really sure of this racial superiority, if we are not yet being able to understand it, that property now is really a hoax, it's a joke. Why don't we set an exam? Maybe a child is born, let's put them through the same education, let them grow up, and let them continue to test them regularly, and let them prove at the end of the day if being a European actually means you are superior to somebody coming from an African. I am more than 100% certain that we can never see that proof. On the contrary, what we usually have in the name of racism is that two or three white men stand up and they beat up a black guy. But that is not racism, that is criminality.
Yes.
Because let's flip it around. If you make a European or a white person stand and three or two black men beat that, they will still kill, they will kill the person. So what does it? It doesn't explain anything. So I was saying one time that racism actually is nothing more than a justification for criminality. Only that this criminality is committed by the privileged part of the society. So we don't want to call them criminal. So we look for a way to justify their crime. Otherwise, what we call racism cannot be explained other than be criminal act.
Mm.
All right, before I ask you uh, how we have transcended, what have actually changed, because you make an example of your son just now having a different kind of treatment until 2001 compared to your case. Now, help me even understand, in your case, growing up as a young girl, you are a young girl this time, say 20, 25 or 15. Tell me, what did you see around in terms of what we are talking about today, discrimination, racism, for the reason that people have to go out to march? Because it's not like African people, we're just angry. We just want to be angry for nothing. There are reasons why the people are crying. So give me the picture of the time.
It's interesting that you picked the age of 15. When I was 15, I had an experience that similar to what many Black people in the 30s and 40s may have gone through in America. I was doing a performance, and we had the group of people that we were performing with, that I was performing with, we had a wonderful day of filming, and I was doing a play, and it was a musical, and it was actually Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and I was Goldilocks of all people, right? But I was singing, and we had finished a taping, and we were just out getting a soda. A group of people drove by, and they called me the N word and the B word. Now, as a 15-year-old in 1970 something, right? I didn't have the same worry or fear of what would happen to my life if I responded to this group of white men in this car that had called me this. So I, in my rebellious self, said, blank you. My instructor and the adults that were around me who were older understood in that moment we were in danger. They rushed us into a convenience store that had closed, but they opened us up because the owner of the store saw what happened, and we rushed inside there and hid. And at that time, I still didn't understand. You know, I'm a 15-year-old young woman. I don't know all the history or hadn't experienced all the history the older people that I was with had experienced as white individuals. They knew we were in danger. And sure enough, those guys rode back with reinforcements just to get me. Now, obviously, nothing happened. We got out of there and we were safe. Now, years later, let's move 10 years or 15 years down the road. I'm a young woman now, young mother, and I have a young son who is becoming 7 or 8 years old. I see him running. We're at a store. I see him running through the store, and immediately I have a fear. I have a fear that something might happen to him because of all of the stories that I've heard generationally of what can happen to a Black boy, a Black man that is suspected for something for no reason at all. So generationally, these fears, these unfortunate incidents that happened to my parents and their parents parents before them, right, gets passed down. So what I believe I had to do, I'll just start with me. What I had to do is I had to make a decision. Am I going to live in fear, or am I going to live in faith? Am I going to live in fear, or am I going to live my life the way I want to live it? And what message am I instilling in my son? So that is why I think that he was so surprised when the gentleman that now as a 30-year-old man came into his dealership and treated him that way, because I was able to shield him from that and not step into that fear and be his own man. And because of that, even though he had that experience and it did enlighten him as to the reality of racism, but it also made him understood that he could still be the full blown adult successful male, and that was not going to stop him from being a successful individual in his field. So there is that evolution of how that has taken place. My father, who I'm so grateful is still with me at 86 years old, who was that civil rights leader back in Detroit all those years ago, he is amazed at how my son has been able to know his strength, know his power in the midst of still living in this context of racism. So for my father at 86, he has a sense of hope, which I'm so glad that he is able to see it. It warms my heart that he's able to feel a little bit better, that the work that he did in the 50s and 60s and the sit-ins and so forth and risking his life has now birthed this grandson of his who is confident and able to walk into any room knowing his power and his ability to succeed.